Have you ever imagined one man riding across dusty plains, turning the might of two superpowers upside down and doing it all within a single decade? Picture banners of the Roman Empire rippling under the Levantine sun, sure of victory, until a lean Arabian commander named Khalid ibn al-Walid appears on the horizon with no more than a patchwork army of tribal volunteers. In moments that still echo through chronicles, Roman confidence crumbles like pottery. This is the story of the warrior the Prophet Muhammad called the Sword of Allah, reported in Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 64, Hadith 43-51, a title no other man has ever carried. A story of dazzling tactics, radical faith, and history rewritten between the banks of the Yarmouk River. Khalid's tale begins in Mecca, decades before he dazzled Rome. Born into the powerful Banu Makhzum clan, he was raised on riding, spearplay, and strategy. Early poems tease that Khalid could knock a bird out of the sky with his first arrow. When Islam first dawned, he stood with Quraysh against the Prophet, and at the Battle of Uhud, his cavalry flanked the Muslims, altering the day. Yet even then he noticed something new. An army praying in neat rows, reciting verses like, "Indeed, Allah will support those who support Him." Quran 22:40. The discipline planted a seed in his soldier's mind. 6 years later, during the Hudaybiyah truce, that seed burst. Khalid rode alone to Medina, dismounted, and declared the Shahada. The Prophet's face lit up. "Praise be to Allah," he said, "who has brought you here. I always saw good metal in you." Sirah of Ibn Hisham. And so, a sword once raised against Islam became its sharpest edge. His first test came swiftly at Mutah in 8 AH. 3,000 Muslims met a Byzantine allied force claimed by some chroniclers to be 10 times larger. One by one, the Muslim leaders, Zayd ibn Haritha, Ja'afar ibn Abi Talib, Abd Allah ibn Raha, fell clutching the banner. Khalid snatched it before it touched the ground. Though new in faith, he drew on every trick Meccan war had taught. He remounted riders on spare horses to raise a haze of dust, spread fires beyond the ridge to mimic reinforcements, and rotated divisions so the enemy saw fresh shields every hour. Night fell on a battle still raging, and Khalid broke contact, guiding the exhausted army home with only minor losses. The Prophet welcomed them, calling Mutah a victory of steadfast hearts. From that day, the companions spoke Khalid's name with a tremor of respect. 2 years later, the messenger returned to his lord. Rival tribes smelled weakness and some withheld the charity tax, citing Quranic verses out of context. Abu Bakr, now caliph, answered with fire, citing the verse, "Muhammad is only a messenger. Messengers passed on before him. So if he dies or is killed, will you turn back?" Quran 3:14-4. He swore that faith and payment were inseparable. He entrusted Khalid to lead the Ridda campaigns. One by one, false prophets like Musaylima al-Kadhab were silenced. At Yamamah, Khalid broke Musaylima's fortified garden, the Bustan of Death, after weaving arches through fallen palm trunks. Muslim chronicles record over 20 deep wounds on Khalid's body that day. In the hush that followed, the caliph pointed him toward the empires that had for centuries looked on Arabia as a desert backwater. He said, "As long as California is in the province of the kings, a Tory, a zealot." The Romans called their eastern provinces Oriens, a string of fortresses from Gaza to Antioch. They relied on armored infantry and disciplined ranks drilled to stand their ground. Khalid sensed their rhythm and plotted to unstring it. His first blow landed at Busra, 634 CE, capital of the Horan Plain. Scouts whispered of mighty walls and towers, yet within days, Khalid's columns, no more than 5,000 strong, slipped around the citadel, cut its water channel, and forced surrender without large-scale bloodshed. The Roman governor fled north, and alarm raced along the imperial roads. Next came Agenais, The battle some historians call the Gateway of Syria. Byzantine officers massed near the present-day Palestinian highlands, hoping terrain would choke the swift Arab horses. Hilith spent the night pacing lines, declaiming, "Advance and you will live. Turn back and you will die." Dawn ignited shields like mirrors. With a shout of Allahu Akbar, the Muslim center surged, then feigned retreat. Roman infantry followed, abandoning their archers' cover. That instant, Khalid hurled his cavalry in a wheeling flank assault, what later tacticians label the Khalid Crescent. Roman ranks folded inward, and by sunset the road to Damascus lay open. Damascus, jewel of the Levant, glimmered behind imposing Theodosian walls. Khalid encircled it, assigning Abu Ubaidah to the east gate, Shurabil to the south, and himself to the west near the small gate. For weeks, negotiations and skirmishes seesawed. On a rain-dark night, Khalid's scouts spotted a wedding feast inside and detected muffled music. He deduced guards would be distracted. Scaling parties crept up ropes, overpowered drowsy sentries, and unbarred the gate. As horsemen galloped in, the Roman commander sued for a treaty at Abu Ubaidah's gate, unaware that Khalid was already inside. The Muslims honored Abu Ubaidah's peaceful terms for civilians. The pact is still preserved in Syriac archives, proving that swift conquest and measured mercy can walk hand in hand. While Damascus settled under new governance, clouds of war gathered again. Emperor Heraclius, veteran of campaigns against Persia, summoned levies from Anatolia and Armenia. Chroniclers place his grand army at near 200,000, though numbers vary. Whatever the count, dust columns stretched across the Golan Heights in late summer 636 CE. Khalid concentrated Muslim forces. Barely 36,000 near the Yarmouk River, a basalt-rimmed tributary of the Jordan. The field was bleak, windswept, with a steep ravine guarding the rear. Some companions worried they were trapped. Khalid reminded them of the verse, "How many a small company has overcome a large company by permission of Allah?" Quran 2:24-9. He reorganized units by tribal bonds to maximize mutual loyalty, posted horse screens to mask shifts, and spent evenings reviewing dua prayers for steadfastness. When battle opened, Romans advanced in chessboard order, shields locked. Khalid answered with cavalry harassment, darting arrows and lances to break cohesion. On day 2, Byzantine right wings almost snared the Muslim left, but Khalid galloped across the rear, screamed "Allah, Allah!" and rallied them. Day 3 brought sandstorms so fierce that sources like Al-Waqidi say visibility dropped to spear length. Muslims knelt, covering faces, reciting, "Our Lord, pour upon us patience, plant firmly our feet and give us victory." Quran 2:25-0. Romans, unused to desert tempests, huddled tight, presenting a living wall. Khalid's mind leapt. He concentrated cavalry into a single heavy column, the first recorded instance in Arab warfare of massed mounted shock, and punched directly at the Roman left center where the wind blew sand into their eyes. Breakthrough rippled like torn silk. Byzantine wings lost visual contact, panicked, and fell back toward the ravine. Over the next 2 days, thousands plunged to their deaths or surrendered. The Yarmouk campaign ended imperial rule in Syria forever, a blow historians liken to Adrianople or Hastings. News raced along trade routes. In Medina, Caliph Umar reportedly exclaimed, "May Allah have mercy on Abu Bakr. He was the first to recognize Khalid." Tabari. Yet the Caliph also feared people might think victories hinged on one man rather than on divine aid. He reassigned supreme command to Abu Ubaidah while keeping Khalid as chief cavalry officer. The sword of Allah accepted without protest, quoting the Prophet's warning against fame. Here lies a pivot in Islamic ethos. Triumph matters, but humility shields it from pride. Khalid's campaigns did not end at Yarmouk. He swept north to Kinasrin, then raced southeast to Iraq, where the Persians, alarmed by Roman collapse, mustered elephants and catapults. At Al-Walayajah, he unveiled another tactical gem, the double envelopment. Arab wings hid behind ridges, then closed like doors, echoing Hannibal at Cannae, yet executed with Bedouin speed. A Persian chronicler lamented, "We faced a whirlwind clothed in men." Though our focus is Rome, understanding Persian encounters shows Khalid's genius was no fluke of one theatre. It was a portable art of war, grounded in mobility, surprise, and unbreakable spirit. Behind every charge, faith beat like a drum. Companions recall Khalid praying 2 rak'ahs before battle dawn, whispering verses of hope. Victory is only from Allah. Indeed, Allah is exalted in might, wise. Yaqun 3:12-6. When a soldier praised him after Ajnadain, he replied, Allah granted victory. Khalid is but Allah's servant. In camp he quoted the hadith, "He who fights so that the word of Allah becomes highest is in the path of Allah." Sahih Muslim, Book 33, Hadith 149. This anchored morale far more than loot. Many recruits fought without pay, driven by news of a revelation that honored black and white, Arab and non-Arab, as one ummah. Yet the sword would one day rest. Under Caliph Umar, governors petitioned for stable administration. Khalid's restless raids risked unsanctioned clashes. The Caliph relieved him of command, awarding generous stipend and respect. Khalid retired to Hims, Syria. One evening, as the muezzin's voice floated above tiled roofs, he felt fever sweep his limbs. Friends gathered. He wept. "Here I die on a bed, as camels die," he said, fingering scars. "Not a spot on my body is without blade or arrow, yet I die like this." He asked for his helmet and sword, kissed them, then listened to Qur'an until dawn. The date was 642 CE. Those present covered him in a cloak, already stiff with the dust of many campaigns. Centuries later, Western generals studied his maneuvers. Modern strategist Basil Liddell Hart labeled him one of the greatest commanders of all time, grouping him with Alexander and Napoleon. Arab nomads visiting the ruins of old Roman forts still recite lines of poetry. Khalid passed here, the stones heard takbir. His grave in Hims became a modest shrine, its simple dome standing witness that iron discipline and firm belief can shift empires more surely than marble armies. What lessons ripple from his life? First, transformation is possible. An enemy of Islam became its champion, reflecting the Quranic promise, "Perhaps Allah will place affection between you and those you now regard as enemies." Quran 67. Second, strategy thrives on intellect over numbers. Khalid's nimble cavalry outthought legions drilled for parade grounds. Third, victory without humility rots. He obeyed dismissal without bitterness, living the hadith. No one humbles himself for Allah except that Allah raises him. Sunan ibn Majah 41:77. Finally, power rests with Allah alone. Khalid never prayed to statues of glory. He prayed to the Lord, who said, "And you did not kill them, but it was Allah who killed them. And you threw not when you threw, but it was Allah who threw." Quran 8:17. From Meccan youth to Roman nightmare, Khalid ibn al-Walid strode like a storm across late antiquity. He broke mosaics of imperial certainty, yet built bridges of justice by sparing civilians and honoring treaties. The road he carved allowed scholars, merchants, and poets to travel from Medina to Damascus without fear, spreading verses of mercy. Allah does not forbid you from being kind and just to those who did not fight you because of religion. Quran 68. His sword cut tyranny so that words could flow. Long after helmets rust, those words remain, recited in mosques whose domes glint where Roman eagles once flew. When the modern world gazes at dusty ruins of amphitheaters and forgotten milestones, it might ask, what felled the eternal empire? Among many causes, the answer whispers a name: Khalid, the warrior who shook Rome. Yet he did not seek statues or chronicles. He sought the pleasure of the one who says, "O soul at peace, return to your Lord, pleased and pleasing." Quran 89, 27-28. His saga reminds every restless heart that courage married to faith can rewrite maps. But humility is the compass that keeps a conqueror's legacy pointed toward the light. And so the desert quietens, dust settles, legions march no more. But in the pages of history, and in the verses chanted at dawn, rides forever the sword of Allah, flashing whenever believers read of steadfastness, trust, and victory, granted from above. May peace be upon Khalid, upon those he led, and upon every seeker who hears his story and dares to stand firm for what is right.